Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to Central News for Wednesday, the 17th of September. I'm Anne-Marie Case-Miller. Hamilton City Council has named a current employee as its new Chief Executive. He's Richard Briggs, currently Council's Chief Financial Officer. Briggs was selected from 36 high-profile applicants from New Zealand and Australia and will take over the role from retiring CEO Barry Harris on October the 17th. Mayor Julie Hardacre said she and councillors were pleased to welcome Briggs as the new CEO, saying he's done an outstanding job as the Chief Financial Officer, and the council are looking forward to working with him as the city embarks on a period of tremendous growth and investment. Nearly 20,000 white crosses from around the country will create a field of remembrance, each representing a young life lost in World War I. Each community throughout New Zealand has their own personal field of remembrance with the name of the fallen. Fiona Keane from the Tauranga Heritage Collection says the nationwide collection represents a lot to those who lost family. In sport, and Waikato's under-15 women's lacrosse team dominated the New Zealand Nationals over the weekend. Playing out of Hillcrest High School, the home team beat Auckland A 11-3 in the final. The development teams also placed third and fourth, showcasing the amount of talent in the region. The under-15 team is now gearing up for the Australian Nationals in Perth on September the 26th after being invited as guests. They're the first regional team good enough to be sent to the Australian competition. Waikato women's under-18 team will head to the Nationals this weekend, looking for a clean sweep of the country's titles. Hamilton Police are increasing their presence around Hamilton Lake after a series of incidents, including the knife-point rape of a 15-year-old schoolgirl last Wednesday. Senior Sergeant Pete Simpson says the lake is a well-used city resource, with Hamilton City Council assessing vegetation around the lake domain to improve sightlines and views. Anyone with information about the attack is asked to contact Hamilton Police on 07 858 6200. And finally, tomorrow is Kingitanga Day at the University of Waikato, with activities from poi demonstrations to speakers on topics ranging from Māori health to Ngā Pakanga Whenua, the flashpoints of war. This year's keynote speaker is Dr. Lance O'Sullivan, who will speak on advancing Māori health from the flax roots. Dr. O'Sullivan was named 2014 New Zealander of the Year and will speak in the Gallagher Academy of Performing Arts Concert Chamber at 9 a.m. tomorrow. It's time to take a look at the marine forecast now. Raglan expect a westerly of 15 knots, becoming a northerly of 20 knots Thursday morning. Fair visibility and occasional showers. High tide 14 minutes past 5 tomorrow morning. Bay of Plenty, westerly of 15 knots, tending Thursday evening to a northerly of 15 knots. High tide 2 minutes past 2 tomorrow morning. Coming up, we speak to a Hamilton girl representing New Zealand in Miss Teen Earth International, discover more about the elder workforce and hear about the extra funding for St John Ambulance on Central News. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. Elena Hill was crowned Miss Teen Hamilton 2014 in May, and since then has represented Hamilton at Miss Teen New Zealand, where she was selected to represent New Zealand at Miss Teen Earth International Beauty in Panama this October. I spoke with Elena and her mum Megan to find out more about the competition and how her journey began.
Well, I received an email from my agent Julie Nolan, and she asked me if I'd like to participate in the Miss Teen Hamilton pageant, and so I asked Mum and decided why not, and she fully supported me through the event, and so I gave the best I could and won.
You did! You won Miss Teen Hamilton. That must have been an amazing experience.
It was nerve-wracking at first, but a lot of fun, and I met some amazing people, and I feel more confident, and yeah.
So what did you have to do at Miss Teen Hamilton?
We had an interview at the start with the judges, and we went through the whole show during the day and how everything was going to go, and practicing walking and just meeting the people and getting to know everyone.
And from that win, you went on, Elena went on, Megan, to represent Hamilton in the Miss Teen New Zealand?
Yes, up in Auckland in July there was girls from all over New Zealand competing, and they had a whole day of preparation and learning, and they had to just
Be beautiful from the inside.
be humble and just be, you know, it was a really big learning experience for a little 14-year-old to compete with all these beautiful girls. So she did very well.
Now, you didn't win there, but you did win, in a way. Was that right? Like, you got chosen for most talented? Tell me about that.
Well, we had to, for Miss Teen New Zealand, we were asked to do a talent, and so I chose to do my own dance, and I choreographed it, chose my own music and costumes, so I gave that a go as well and also won that category.
And you've been selected for the biggie, to represent New Zealand at Miss Teen Earth International Beauty in Panama. That's an incredible achievement. How do you feel about that? How did you feel when you were selected?
I was pretty shocked at first and proud of myself in a way, and excited about how far I can go with this and what's prepared for me ahead, and just so happy that everything was happening.
And Megan, she also won Best Evening Gown as well?
Yes, she did.
What was the criteria for that?
Well, the criteria is pretty basic to start with. It's you've got to pick a dress that suits your body, which is actually quite challenging in itself, and has to touch the ground. And then the girls must present the dress beautifully, so they have to walk in it correctly, their poise, their manner, their stature. Then they have to give a speech to the judges in it and be able to walk and parade the dress. So it's presenting themselves and the dress in the best light. So she nailed that one. She was amazing, absolutely stunning.
What's your background? Have you done speech and drama? Have you done dance? Or are you just naturally confident and give everything a go?
Well, I can't say I'm naturally confident, but I love to dance and I love being involved with music and everything like that. I am not so well in drama, but I can give things a go and just do the best that I can.
It's a great attitude, isn't it, in life to have, to be able to give everything a go. So, off to Panama, you're going.
Yes.
How are you? I'm thinking that's going to cost a bit.
It's costing quite a bit. We have had the international organisers have donated all the dresses that she has to wear, all her cocktail dresses, evening dresses.
That's huge.
But we still have to obviously get her shoes and all her accessories and things. The flights and over there were the biggest chunk of it, but they were generously donated to us by family, so that was a huge help. And so we're madly fundraising and seeking, sponsorship for the rest.
So how are you fundraising?
We've had some help from local businesses, the Classic Car Museum, and donated some vouchers to us to raffle off. We've had New World Te Rapa let us run a sausage sizzle there last week, so we made a few $100s there, and they were very generous to donate all the sausages to us. So it's a help. Anything that can help does actually help, even the smallest things. So we've had a few people just give little donations here and there. So we got a gift of sponsorship from Gallagher Group. They've donated some money towards us as well. So we're still seeking a bit more.
How are you going to do a fundraising page, like Give a Little or anything like that?
We have looked into that, so yeah, we'll keep our options open.
Or keep us posted on that. What are you going to be doing in Panama?
Well, the pageant is happening over 5 days, so they'll be judging throughout all those 5 days. We'll be asked to do fashion shows, makeup tutorials, we'll be judged on swimwear, daywear, evening wear and cocktail dresses. And so we'll just be judged on every little thing, and we'll be asked to do activities throughout the day, and we're
community-based project because it's Miss Teen Earth. It's a big environmental plug. So the big thing is about worldwide consciousness in the environment. So they've got some community-based activities like tree planting and going into primary schools and giving some education as well. So it's actually quite a big thing, so hopefully we can plug New Zealand while we're there. Yeah.
And it's really important to remember that you've won already before you even get there. No matter what happens, you're a winner. And it's important, especially with these kind of competitions, for girls to know that, isn't it? Are you worried about that side?
Not so much. Elena's she's very humble, and she's very beautiful inside and out. And she's got that humility that she knows, she'll just do her best and whatever will be. So I'm really proud of her in that regard.
If you'd like to contribute to the fundraising and help Elena represent New Zealand in Panama, then you can give a little at the fundraising page. Go to givealittle.co.nz/cause/Elena. Still to come, we discuss the elder workforce and find out where the extra staff are heading for St John Ambulance. That's coming up on Central News. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. The baby boomer generation is getting older and eventually they will enter retirement age. The ageing workforce is said to be one of the major problems to face the Western world, and Tauranga City Council adopted an age-friendly strategy earlier this year. Hilary spoke with the Tauranga Chamber of Commerce to find out about age-friendly practices.
What are age-friendly practices under the strategy?
They sit a lot around flexibility, working hours, working career. Older people may not want to work 5 days a week from 8:30 to 5. They might want to work 4 days a week. They might want to come in at 9 and leave at 3. And it's about understanding different, and they may want to have a month off in the middle of the winter to go overseas in the summer. So it's kind of those sort of discussions that you would have with your older workforce, that you acknowledge that they've got a huge benefit to your business. That's a benefit. We need to be more accommodating about what those different practices are. Having said that, I think more and more companies are moving to a flexible working space anyway, which an older workforce naturally adapts to. So I don't think it's any more that we have a cut and dried 8:30 to 5 working framework, that more and more businesses are looking at, including the Chamber I might add, at a flexible working space. So those are some of the things. It may be some mobility issues, there may be some, you might need bigger fonts, and interestingly Trustpower just recently became an age-friendly business, and they've adapted some of their fonts to better, larger fonts so that people can see it. Their invoices are now formatted differently so that people understand it better. So there's a number of things that you can do that fit around that older workforce.
How does hiring an older workforce strengthen the productivity and competitiveness of a business?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and I think what it does is, what we're suggesting is that you need to change the view of that. So one of the things that often an older person has, they certainly have skill and they certainly have knowledge. They've done this job for a long time. They often bring wisdom, they often bring some sort of calmness, and they often bring in their own way an interest in another view of the world. So sometimes, and if you partner that with a younger person in your team, and that lovely transference of skills and wisdom, and how do you do this job, and just having that mentoring there is a really positive aspect inside the business. And they may often be better just doing a project that they have a huge amount of knowledge on, that can then be shared back through the team or the company. So I think that when you start to see it as a different aspect, that they're not working as your younger workforce might, but how do you just partner those two people, then you get a huge amount of benefit from that.
Do you think there is a perception out there that the older workforce isn't as productive?
Yes, I do. I think there is that perception. I think there is also that perception that they're taking a younger person's job. If you were to look at the ageing population as a truly statistical issue, there isn't a growing younger population. And the younger population actually likes to work, like the older ones do, in a much more flexible workplace. They have 24 hours to achieve their outcomes. They don't see that you have to do it in 5 or 8 hours in a day. So it might be they work from 5 in the morning till 8, and then have sort of half the day off, surf, do whatever they like to do. So that philosophy applies to the older and younger workforce. The idea that an older workforce is taking or not as productive is they just work differently. And what we're saying to an employer now is acknowledge the difference, work with the difference, look at the outcomes that you're achieving.
Almost 2/3 of organisations weren't prepared to support and manage an elderly workforce. What does a business have to do to manage and support?
I think they have to open up their thinking. They have to think differently, not see it as an older workforce or a younger workforce. See it as a workforce that you want to get productivity out of. So if that means that you change the way you think about, example, that 8-hour day, or working from home, or flexi time, I start earlier, leave earlier, people are going to have to change the way they think about how you operate. There are clearly some jobs that you may have to be in for instance, in a production line, that might be a different way of operating. But certainly if you're not open anymore to the fact that your workforce is going to change, the way they work is going to change, then that will impact on your productivity, and not because the workforce, because you're not open to change about how people operate.
Do you think in the future we'll see people working right into their 80s and 90s?
Yes, I do. And acknowledged working. A lot of those people leave work officially at 65, but pop back, or they're often at work, or they contribute, but they're not acknowledged as working. It almost becomes that volunteer sector, when in fact we need to acknowledge that they are working, they're contributing, they're adding to the value of the company. And I think the nicest thing is that when you do see people valued, and it gives that older worker that sense of value, I'm still valued, I can still contribute. It helps their mind remain agile and worthwhile and feeling good about themselves. And so our health issues start to reduce because you're feeling better, more alive, you're active, you've got a reason to get up in the morning, you think there's something that you can add back. And those things make a difference to how we operate as people going into our golden years, I guess.
The Chamber of Commerce and Age Concern are holding a forum tomorrow about an older workforce. You can find out more by emailing events@tauranga.org.nz. Up next, we speak with Craig Scott from St John Ambulance about the extra funding for staff. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. In the biggest recruitment drive in its history, St John will recruit 158 additional frontline ambulance staff members by July next year. The move is expected to improve service response times, reduce the number of single crews, and improve patient and staff safety. Territory Manager for the North Waikato St John Central Region, Craig Scott, spoke with me recently and explained how the new positions will be funded.
They're going to be funded, we're going to fill 158 new positions over 35 locations out in New Zealand. The funding partners is ACC and Ministry of Health and St John. St John's going to provide 57 new positions. ACC is 82 and 19 from the Ministry of Health.
What kind of difference will the extra 158 staff make?
This will make us become more patient focused, and therefore that will help improve our response times and obviously help with the single crewing to double crewing and improve patient care and safety for staff and patients.
And what areas in the Waikato Bay of Plenty region are going to receive those extra staff?
We're looking at putting 2 in Huntly, 6 in Hamilton, 1 for Tikawiti and 1 officer for Otaronga, 2 in Tauranga and 4 for the Mount Maunganui.
That's fantastic for those rural areas.
Rural areas always seem to struggle. The metropolitan, because you've got the metropolitan versus rural, that's that sort of scenario. And the metropolitan areas have always had the resourcing because of the work demand and double crewing, although they have some volunteers. It's predominantly unpaid staff, whereas the rural areas don't have that luxury, therefore rely more on the volunteer commitment. for the double crewing.
Craig, you've been with St John's now for 34 years. Tell me how you began with the organisation.
Yeah, well, it's a long time ago. I'm actually a car painter by trade when I left school, and an opportunity came up to join the traffic department. So, because back then traffic was separate from the police, as today where it's all in one. So, and I spent 3 years with the traffic department, and I did enjoy the role, but I had some colleagues in there that left the traffic department and went to St John. And they just kept sort of hounding me, I'm in the wrong job, and therefore, come over to St John. So I did. I took the plunge, I went to St John, and they took me on straight away. So I suppose with the experience with the traffic department and the exposure that I had from a shift point of view and seeing some bad accident stuff, they thought that was a good insight into becoming a St John officer.
What type of person makes a good St John's ambulance officer? It's
somebody, obviously, has got to have that caring nature, and we talk about compassion, and compassion is something that you're either bred with and you can develop it, or it's something that people don't have, and they struggle with it. So I think when somebody comes in there, you can see if they've got that caring nature, and then how they present themselves when they deal with people in the community and their patients, whether that compassion comes out. And I think over years of exposure and experience really develops that compassion.
For more details on volunteering or working for St John, go to stjohn.org.nz. It's time to take a look at the weather at your place now. Hamilton, expect a cloudy day on Thursday, cloud increasing with rain developing, northerlies and a high of 17 degrees with 10 the overnight low. Taking a look around the region, Paeroa can expect a high of 17 degrees with a low of 9. Matamata 16 and a low of 9. 17 for Te Awamutu with an overnight low of 10. And Tokoroa should get to 14, down to 9 overnight. Tauranga expect occasional rain developing with northerlies, high of 17 degrees expected, down to a low of 11 overnight. And around the bay, Te Puke can expect a high of 15 degrees with 11 the overnight low. And that's Central News for today, Wednesday the 17th of September 2014. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you join our Facebook page. Let us know of news in your community. I'm Anne-Marie Case-Miller. Ka kite anō.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.